Jeg dukkede op i London, men det er jeg åbenbart ikke. Jeg er dukket op i New York i 1970. Normalt, når vi tager til sådan nogle junkets her og skal til pressedag og sådan noget, så plejer det at være sådan lidt stille og roligt. Man dukker op på et helt normalt hotel. Men denne gang, så har de selvfølgelig lavet The Continental. Så vi skal ind på The Continental. Vi skal have en oplevelse på Continental. Vi skal lave interviews der. Og forhåbentlig se en masse af The Continental. What is it about John Wick and like the world he inhabits that resonates so wildly with the modern audiences? And I have a feeling also like younger audiences. What is it about it?
I mean, I think initially, you know, the role of John Wick, you know, Keanu is this incredible actor that I think brings all this emotional baggage with him. And I think people, women, men, just love him. And I think that he elicits this like feelings that people just want to be on a journey with him. And I think, you know, the initial buy-in of John Wick was such a clean concept, right? It was like a guy who had lost everything. His wife had died, his puppy had been killed. And I think the sort of primal instinct to kill for your dog and go on a revenge mission is something that people could really buy into and go on that journey with. So it was such a clean concept.
Yeah, I think we live like in a world of, like a lawless world, where rules and norms and mores seem to be collapsing like every year. And I think there's something about the discipline of the rules of the John Wick world. And the idea of that here are these like ferocious killers that have to stop, like even if they came and cross a line. And that discipline and those rules,
yeah.
It, you know, it's a bit like chivalry and the knights. I think people really like, no matter how big, strong, ferocious, psychotic you are, you have to obey by these rules. And there's something kind of absurd. It's so counter to our culture now that I think people love that kind of comfort, that this world is controlled by these rules.
This sacred institution wields power beyond your imagination. Winston, your brother stole something from me.
You've been doing a lot of stuff, and a lot of different stuff in stunts. This is action directing. How does this show stand out among all the other stuff you've been doing?
Well, for one, there's the pressure of catering to the expectation of fans from the Wick universe. Once you factor that in right there, then that makes it really different right there. It's one thing to hop into something like an original IP, where people don't know what to expect. So they're just going to enjoy it. They're just going to take in the information or the sequences you show. But within each sequence of the Continental, there's like the level of Wick expectations. And we just have to make sure we stay consistent throughout each episode, night 1, 2, 3, etc. So yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges, but fun as well.
How did you do that? I mean, how do you stay consistent? You had a presentation down here before.
Yeah.
You said you could choose a variety of different styles, fighting styles. You chose karate.
Yes, yes.
Is that like consistent through the whole show, or was that just this morning?
Well, I would say that's in the show. You're going to see that from certain characters. Here's what I feel like. Styles makes fights. You know, same thing with like UFC. You know, styles make fights. You know, jiu-jitsu guy against somebody who's a Muay Thai specialist, you know. It's very unique. They both have strategies. And I think that plays into fight scenes where it's easier to choreograph when there's different styles, you know, such as Frankie in the Stairwell. Okay, he's trained, he's good with guns. You know, obviously he's tactical, good with hand-to-hand combat. So seeing all that come into play with these assassins, you know, back to back to back, and just the pressure and no time to think, just respond and execute. I believe that element alone right there, when you use a style give it a chance to develop, and then there's a story that follows it through where you're like, okay, I want to see what they're going to do in this situation coming up. Then the payoff happens.
In the world of John Wick, people shouldn't be shooting each other in Continentals. That should be like the last resort. In the show, it's all out mayhem. They'll pay the consequences if God willing there's ever a second season of what happened there. But I think that kind of hold tight discipline is, I think it's, you know, it's very samurai. I think people love that emotion and that theme.
We have to strike first, and I need all the help I can get.
How are we supposed to believe a guy in an ascot can pull this off?
It's a cravat.
How about this being an action show? I mean, did you use a lot of stretch fabrics or something like that?
Yeah.
Because they're very athletic, these actors.
Well, right at the beginning of the process, I having watched the John Wick films multiple times, I knew that I needed costumes that multiples of for all the stunts that I knew were coming my way. So I had 150 at least men's suits, ladies' suits, shirts, multiples, it's the same sizes, out of like a crimpline fabric, which is from the 70s, which had flexibility in it. Right. But wherever we needed more flexibility, we would use lycra inserts under the arms, in the crutches, at the back of the waist. So, but that, saved the day, having access to so many duplicate suits, because it was very physical. And Larnell's stunt direction was incredible. So I watched very closely the rehearsals of what was coming, where we were going, and and the same with the actors, multiple repeats of their costumes where they're needed.
Can you tease, for people who haven't seen it, can you tease what stunt sequence in this show is one of your personal favorites?
Oof. It's interesting. One of my personal favorites, is a fight scene that happens in a phone booth. It's a tight space. Think about it. In the 70s, if you make a phone call in a phone booth, there's enough room for you. Enough room for you. Now pull somebody in and do an actual fight sequence. Then how do you film it as well? And how do you make it safe? Yeah. And the phone booth was not increased in size to make it stunty and comfortable. No, we had to work within those confines. That was very challenging. I think that was a first for me. I don't think I've ever had a fight scene in my career inside of a phone booth.
All due respect to the actors who are great, but it's not so star heavy as other shows might be. Was that a clear decision?
No. I mean, I think initially we were just looking for the perfect casting for Winston, who could embody a young Ian McShane. And it took a long time to find Colin, and then the same with, Io, who had big shoes to fill with Lance Reddick. So it was about finding, and he was a relatively unknown. He was, in drama school when we found him. So it was just about finding the right casting for those roles.
The sense always was the Continental was the star of the movie, like the hotel. Yeah. But we never felt pressure. We never felt, that was definitely the pressure for Cormac, let's get a name, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the other actors, everyone's just let's do someone, let's cast people who are cool, young, up-and-coming, who could fight. A cross-section of ethnicity and gender. And we weren't told, please cast Zendaya or else you're not making the TV show. We would have.
Thankfully.
And away we go.